Evan Brooks floated inside the patrol ship, his hands shaking as he tried to reach the communication console. The metal walls creaked and groaned, and sparks flew from broken panels. Smoke filled the small cabin, making it hard to see. The ship had been ambushed in deep space. One moment everything was quiet, and the next, explosions ripped through the hull. The other crew members were gone. Evan was alone, barely conscious, and the oxygen levels were dropping fast. He crawled across the floor, dragging himself toward the main control panel. The screen flickered weakly, showing the status of the ship. Hull integrity was almost zero. Life support was failing. The alarms screamed in his ears, but he ignored them. He had to try. He had to survive. He pressed buttons and tried to reroute power, but the wires were damaged, and sparks shot out every time he touched them. Suddenly, he heard a sound above him. A loud, metallic thud echoed through the cabin. Evan froze, heart racing. He was not alone. Someone had boarded the ship. He looked around, panicked, searching for a weapon. There was nothing. The only thing he could see was a helmeted figure stepping out of the shadows. The armor was dark, with sharp lines and glowing edges. The figure carried no visible weapons, but the presence was enough to make Evan tremble. He raised his hands. "Wait! Don't hurt me!" he shouted, his voice trembling. The figure said nothing. She moved with speed and precision, scanning the room. Evan noticed she did not seem human at first glance. Her body was taller than his, and the armor covered every inch. Sparks from the damaged ceiling reflected off her helmet, hiding her face. Evan expected an alien raider, a monster come to finish him. Instead, she went straight to the control panel and worked on it. Sparks flew around her fingers, but her movements were careful. She touched wires, adjusted circuits, and with a few quick motions, the panel came alive. The alarms stopped. The smoke began to clear. Evan could hardly believe it. Who are you?" he asked, still cautious. The figure said nothing. She pointed toward the escape pods. Her gestures were precise, like someone who had done this many times. Evan hesitated, looking at the pods. The ship was unstable. If he tried to move without help, the hull might collapse. Okay, he said, shoving himself toward the pod area. The figure followed silently. Her steps, soft, but confident. She lifted him effortlessly over fallen beams and broken equipment, her strength far beyond human. Evan felt a mix of fear and awe. They reached a small escape pod. Evan tried to open the door, but it was jammed. She stepped forward and pushed it with one hand. The metal groaned but gave way. He stumbled inside. She followed, making sure he was seated and secure. Then she operated the controls. The pod detached from the damaged ship and moved through the void of space, heading toward an unknown destination. Evan's mind raced. He had never seen anyone like her. Her armor was advanced, far beyond human design. Her strength was incredible. But there was also something disciplined, careful, and purposeful in her movements. She moved with a calm determination that unsettled him. "Are you human?" he asked, curiosity breaking through the fear. She paused for a moment but did not answer. Her helmet tilted slightly, as if acknowledging the question, but no sound came. Evan frowned. She was different. That much was clear. But different in what way? He wanted to know. But something told him, asking more questions might be dangerous. The pod moved through space silently. Outside, the stars stretched and flickered, but Evan did not look out. He was too focused on the warrior beside him. He noticed small details, the way her hands moved, the way she adjusted her helmet, the way she seemed to scan every panel and system with care. She was precise, almost mechanical, yet there was a presence there that felt alive. After what seemed like hours, the pod approached a hidden asteroid field. Huge gray rocks floated in a chaotic pattern, and in the center, a hollowed-out asteroid glowed faintly with artificial lights. The pod moved toward the opening. Evan's heart leaped. She had a destination, a place of safety. The pod landed smoothly inside the asteroid. The interior was surprisingly large, with tunnels and small rooms carved from the rock. Lights flickered, casting soft shadows. Evan looked around, amazed. He had never seen a place like this. The warrior led him down a narrow corridor. Her steps made no sound. She opened a door to a small medical bay. Inside, the room was clean and advanced. A few machines hummed softly. Evan could see a bed, a supply of oxygen tanks, and tools for repairs. "Sit," she commanded, her voice calm, but firm. Evan obeyed, still in awe. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but no words came out. Finally, he whispered, "Why? Why did you save me? I thought you would attack me." She did not answer. She moved to a panel on the wall and began running scans on the pod and the asteroid. Evan watched her work. Her hands moved with confidence and speed. Machines beeped and hummed. The readings came back clean. She nodded once and turned back to him, as if to say everything was okay. Evan noticed something strange. Even though the pod was safe, she did not remove her helmet. Not even for a second. Her face remained hidden behind dark glass. He wondered what she looked like. Human? Alien? Something else entirely? "Are you alone out here?" he asked carefully. She tilted her head slightly but did not answer. Evan understood that she was not going to explain. Some things were private. He respected that, though it made him more curious. The hours passed slowly. Evan tried to sleep, but he could not. He kept watching her. She moved around the room silently, checking systems, adjusting controls, and sometimes pausing to look at him. It was almost as if she were studying him, trying to understand him. The thought made him uneasy, but also safe. He had never met someone so strong, so quiet, so capable. Finally, he spoke again. I should thank you. You saved my life." She paused. Then she nodded once. It was a small gesture, but it felt like acknowledgement, maybe even approval. Evan smiled faintly, feeling a strange warmth toward her. Despite the danger, despite the fear, he felt gratitude. She had risked herself for him. He decided to try one more question. Do you have a name?" The warrior hesitated, her hand hovering over a control panel. Then she said a single word, calm and firm. "Vara." "Vara," Evan repeated, tasting the sound. It felt strange. Foreign, yet real. "It's nice to meet you, Vara." She did not respond, only turned back to her work. But Evan felt that something had changed. For the first time, he did not feel completely alone. Someone was here. Someone strong. Someone willing to protect him. As he lay down to rest, Evan's thoughts wandered. Who was Vara really? Where had she come from? Why was she out here in deep space, alone? He had no answers, only questions. But one thing was clear. He owed her his life, and somehow, he felt that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. Outside the asteroid, the stars continued to shine, cold and distant. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of mysteries. But inside the small medical bay, Evan felt a small measure of hope. He was alive, and Vara, the silent warrior, was watching over him, and he could not shake the feeling that one day he would see the face behind the helmet. Until that day, he would wait, watch, and trust. Evan woke to the soft hum of machines. The room was quiet, except for the faint beeping of monitors. He sat up slowly and looked around. Vara was still standing near the control panel, scanning the pod systems. Her movements were smooth and exact, almost like a machine. But Evan knew she was not a machine. She was alive, and somehow, she cared enough to save him. He rubbed his eyes and tried to speak. "Are you?" Vara did not look at him directly. Her helmet remained on, hiding her face. She moved to the medical supplies, checking some tanks and tools. Then she turned slightly and nodded once. It was her way of saying yes. Evan understood. She did not speak much, but her actions said everything. Evan got up and walked to the door of the medical bay. The asteroid tunnels stretched in every direction, dimly lit by soft lights. He could see the shadows of the rocks outside the window. He had never been in a place like this. It was quiet, safe, and strange. He felt both nervous and curious. "Where are we?" he asked, trying not to sound scared. Vara paused and looked at the control panel, her hand hovering over a holographic map. Then she pressed a few buttons, and the map projected into the air. Lines and dots showed tunnels, rooms, and hidden sections of the asteroid. She did not speak, but Evan could see that this place was large and well prepared. It was more than a hiding place. It was a base. He stepped closer, pointing at one of the tunnels. "This is all yours?" Vara shook her head slightly and made a gesture to indicate that it was not exactly hers. She had permission to use it, maybe. Or maybe she was here on a mission. Evan did not understand yet. He sat on a nearby bench and watched her. She moved with such skill, checking systems, repairing panels, and adjusting machinery. Evan realized he had never seen anyone work like this. She was faster than any human, stronger than any soldier, and precise in ways that seemed impossible. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "Who are you? Where do you come from? Who are you? Where do you come from?" Vara froze for a moment. Then she turned slightly, scanning him with eyes that were hidden behind her helmet. Evan felt as if she could see everything about him. Every thought. Every fear. He shivered. She said nothing. Her silence made him more curious. He tried again. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to know." She lifted a hand and motioned for him to stop. It was firm, clear, and impossible to ignore. Evan understood that some things were private. He nodded, swallowing his curiosity. For hours, they worked in silence. Evan tried to help with repairs, but Vara was faster and stronger. She lifted heavy panels and fixed broken wires with ease. Sparks flew, but she handled them like they were nothing. Evan felt both admiration and frustration. He wanted to help, but she did everything perfectly before he could even try. At one point, the pod alarm beeped softly. Vara moved immediately, scanning the engines and the hull. She pressed buttons and adjusted controls. The alarm stopped. Evan noticed she never seemed tired, never seemed worried. He, on the other hand, felt exhausted just watching her work. As night came, the asteroid tunnels grew darker. The soft lights reflected off the metal walls. Evan sat on a bench, watching her. He wanted to ask more questions, but he also wanted to learn. He noticed little things. The way she moved, the way she held her hands, the way she paused sometimes to scan the area. Everything was careful and deliberate. "I've never seen anyone like you," he said quietly. You are amazing." Vara paused, tilting her head slightly. It was a small gesture, but Evan felt that she had heard him. Then she moved back to the control panel, adjusting a few more systems. She did not speak. Her silence was strange, but somehow comforting. Evan realized he was learning more by watching her than by asking questions. She had skills beyond anything humans had. Her strength, speed, and knowledge were incredible. He wondered if she was part of a special military, or maybe something else. He could not imagine how anyone could be this capable. Later, he noticed she was observing the tunnels, scanning for threats. She moved quietly, her steps soft and careful. Evan followed her, curious. They reached a small chamber filled with tools and supplies. Vara selected some equipment and handed it to him. "Here," she said quietly. Her voice was soft but firm. "Use this." Evan took the tools and tried to follow her instructions. She watched him closely, correcting his movements when he made mistakes. He felt embarrassed, but also grateful. She was patient, even though he was slow and clumsy. Hours passed. The asteroid was quiet, except for the sounds of their work. Evan began to feel a strange connection to her. She had saved his life, protected him, and now she was teaching him without words. He did not understand her completely, but he trusted her. At one point, he asked, "Do you eat? Or sleep?" Vara froze for a moment. Then she shook her head slightly. She did not eat. She did not seem to need sleep. Evan watched her as she moved around the room. She adjusted panels, checked monitors, and sometimes paused to observe him. Her endurance was unbelievable. He realized she was different from humans, but also not completely alien. She had feelings, even if she did not show them. She cared about him, even though she said almost nothing. That thought made him feel safer. As the asteroid's artificial night passed, Evan grew tired. He lay down on the bench, trying to rest. Vara stayed near the control panel, keeping watch. He felt a strange comfort in her presence. She was silent, but he knew she was there to protect him. In the early hours, he watched her move quietly to a window overlooking the asteroid field. She scanned the space outside, her eyes glowing faintly through the helmet. Evan noticed how alert she was, ready for anything. He felt a mix of awe and fear. She was more than a warrior. She was something humans had never seen before. Finally, he spoke again. "Vara, thank you for everything." She paused and nodded slightly. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. Evan smiled faintly, feeling a warmth he had not felt in a long time. He wanted to ask more questions about her past, her mission, her people. But he decided to wait. He knew she would reveal things in her own time. For now, he would watch, learn, and trust her. Outside, the asteroid drifted silently in space. The stars were bright, distant, and cold. But inside, Evan felt a small sense of safety. Vara was there. She had saved him. She had brought him to a place where he could survive. And somehow, he knew that this was only the beginning. He wondered what her face looked like beneath the helmet. Was she human? Alien? Something else? He did not know. But he felt certain of one thing. Vara was extraordinary, and the universe was about to change because of her. Evan closed his eyes and tried to rest. He knew he would need all his strength for the days ahead. Vara would teach him more than just survival. She would teach him about courage, skill, and a kind of humanity he had never imagined. And he would follow her, wherever she led. Evan woke to a sudden vibration through the floor. Alarms blared across the asteroid base. He shot upright and saw red lights flashing along the walls. Vara was already moving, faster than he could follow. Her helmet reflected the red glow as she scanned the tunnels and systems. "Raiders," she said in a low, calm voice. It was the first time he had heard her speak more than a few words. Her tone carried no fear, only determination. Evan felt his stomach tighten. He had expected danger, but seeing it so close made his fear real. He watched Vara move. She was fast, almost inhumanly fast. Her hand flew across panels, activating defenses, sealing doors, and rerouting power to the emergency shields. Sparks shot from damaged panels, but she ignored them. Every movement was precise, controlled, and efficient. "Stay behind me," she said. Evan nodded, barely breathing. He wanted to help, but he knew he would slow her down. The asteroid shook as the first attack hit. Explosions rocked the tunnels, sending debris flying. Evan ducked instinctively. Vera was already in motion. She grabbed a heavy metal beam and used it to block falling debris, protecting both of them. Then, she ran toward the sound of the intruders. Evan followed, staying low and careful. He could hear the raiders shouting through the tunnels, their voices harsh and strange. They were armed with energy weapons that cut through walls and panels with sparks and smoke. He had never seen anything like it. Vara moved with almost unnatural speed. She struck quickly and precisely, using the raiders' own momentum against them. One raider lunged at her with a blade, and she caught his arm mid-air, twisting it so he dropped the weapon. She moved again, spinning and striking another intruder, sending him sprawling across the floor. Evan could barely keep up. She was like a shadow, fast, strong, and deadly. He tried to help, picking up a fallen tool and swinging it at a raider. The raider barely noticed and pushed him aside. Evan stumbled, heart racing. Vara was behind him in a second, knocking the raider to the ground. She did not speak, only moved. Every action was calm, focused, and efficient. The base shook again as more raiders broke through a sealed door. Vara acted instantly, moving between the attackers and Evan. She struck with precise blows, disabling raiders without hesitation. Evan noticed she never wasted effort. Every strike was calculated. Every movement had purpose. One raider fired a weapon at Evan. He froze, unable to move. Vera saw it and reacted instantly. She grabbed him and pushed him to the side, taking the blast herself. Sparks flew across her armor. Evan felt a surge of fear and guilt. She had risked herself to protect him. "Vara!" he shouted. She turned to him, her helmet tilted slightly. She was fine, but her armor was scratched and sparking. She gave him a quick nod, telling him to stay calm. Then she ran back into the fray, faster than Evan could comprehend. Evan ducked behind a wall, watching. He had never seen anything like her. She was strong, fast, and fearless. She was more than human. He realized that she could take on an entire group of raiders by herself and still keep him safe. His respect and awe for her grew with every second. The raiders advanced, but Vara anticipated their movements. She used the environment to her advantage, pushing attackers into walls, using debris to block paths, and moving like a shadow through the tunnels. Evan could see that she had fought before, many times, and had survived every battle. Suddenly, a large raider appeared with a heavy energy weapon. He fired a blast that tore through the wall behind Vara. She jumped aside, rolling and striking him in one motion. The raider fell, stunned. She moved quickly, checking the corridor. Evan realized she was not just fighting. She was protecting him, analyzing threats, and controlling the battlefield at the same time. "Evan, behind me!" she shouted as another raider appeared from a side tunnel. He froze, and she grabbed him, pulling him to safety. She swung around, striking the raider with a speed he could not follow. The battle lasted for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was only minutes. The raiders began to retreat. Vara had forced them back. She moved to the exit and sealed the tunnels, locking them out. She stood in the middle of the corridor, breathing slightly heavier than before. Evan ran to her, looking at her armor, scratched and sparking. You're incredible," he said, still shaking. "I've never seen anyone fight like that." Vara did not smile, but she nodded. Her helmet hid her face, but Evan could feel a small acknowledgement. She had saved him again, and this time against many enemies. Are you hurt? He asked cautiously. She shook her head. Just scratches, she said quietly. Her voice was calm, almost emotionless. But Evan could see her movements were slightly slower. She was tired, even if she did not show it. They moved to the medical bay. Evan tried to help her sit, but she waved him off. She activated a small medical unit, and lights scanned her armor and body. The scratches and sparks were minor, but the scan showed something strange. Her body healed faster than human biology should allow. Evan stared. She was not like any human he had ever known. Vara, you're not human, are you? He asked carefully. She froze for a moment, then looked at him. Evan could see a small tilt of her helmet, as if deciding what to say. Finally, she spoke. Not entirely, she said quietly. Evan's mind raced. Not entirely human? What did that mean? He wanted to ask more, but he stopped himself. She would tell him when she wanted to. Evan, you should rest, she said. The raiders may come back. He nodded, still staring at her. He felt a strange mix of awe and fear. She had saved him, fought an entire group of enemies alone, and revealed just enough to make him curious. He wanted to know more. But he also trusted her. As he lay down on the bench, he watched her move to a window overlooking the asteroid field. The stars were distant and cold, but she scanned every movement, every shadow. Her silver eyes reflected faint light through the helmet. Evan realized that she could see things he could not, detect danger before it arrived, and react faster than any human soldier. He tried to sleep, but his mind was filled with questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? What kind of people could produce someone like Vara? He wanted to ask, but he knew now that she would reveal things when she was ready. Hours passed, and the asteroid remained quiet. The raiders had retreated, but Evan knew it was only temporary. Vara stayed awake, watching, scanning, ready for anything. He felt safer with her nearby, but he also felt a growing curiosity and respect. Vara, why did you save me? He asked quietly, almost whispering. She paused and looked at him. For the first time, there was a small hesitation in her movements. Because I could not let you die, she said simply. Evan felt a lump in his throat. Her words were simple, but they carried weight. She had broken her own rules, risked herself, and saved a human she barely knew. He realized that her strength was not just physical. Her courage, her sense of duty, and her compassion were beyond anything he had imagined. He wanted to see her face, to understand her better. But he knew it was not the right time. Vara had her reasons, and he would respect them. For now, he would watch, learn, and trust her. As the artificial night passed in the asteroid base, Evan finally closed his eyes. He knew that the days ahead would be difficult. The raiders were still out there. The universe was dangerous, and he was inexperienced. But with Vara, he felt that survival was possible. And somewhere deep in his mind, he knew that he would soon see the face behind the helmet. When that moment came, nothing would ever be the same. For now, he slept lightly, listening to the soft hum of machines, feeling the silent presence of a warrior who had become his protector.